All right, we were back at it this week to hopefully get the dreaded sanding knocked out on this car. Rest of my material arrived late last week. Got a jump starter over the weekend, so quick take you for a once over. Show you what we're working with here. Okay, so this is my generic set of just miscellaneous sanding blocks. A couple different thicknesses, hardnesses, sizes, and whatnot. Picked this up off of eBay a couple years ago for 20 or 25 bucks. I think there was a dozen or 15 of them in here. As you can see, these had a little bit of a welder mishap after being wiped down with some acetone. Hence the reason I needed some larger ones. So I just went ahead and sprung for a nice set of Dura blocks. This was just their generic set. I think it was 50 bucks. There's 5 pieces in here. I think that'll suffice for what we need to do. And then while I was ordering, I went ahead and picked up a couple different grits of this sticky back paper, 120 all the way to 400. So we'll start with the 120 and then we'll work our way to 400. And I'm just using a little bit of black dry guide coat. It'll help me out keep everything as flat as I can. And that's kind of what we're using. So I don't know, probably, I think we were like 60, 80 bucks in the paper, 50 bucks for that set. So there's probably $100, $150 worth of parts and material here. But I think it'll be all right to get this whole car sanded down. So that's not too horrible. So we're just gonna jump off at it, go a panel at a time, just not get it too overwhelmed. So I'm gonna start with the driver's side because that's kind of what I've already started on. And then we'll move on, knock out the passenger side, get the roof skin figured out, get this deck lid. I'm not taking this thing down to bare metal. We're just gonna go down and get all the loose stuff knocked off. If it goes down to bare metal in certain spots, that's okay, but I'm not focused on removing all the paint, especially some of this original stuff. So that's kind of my game plan. We're just gonna dive off into it, see what we can get knocked out, and hopefully by the end of this video, this car will be sanded down. Okay, so after I fixed this section here that was on the oil can, I got in here with a dolly and a hammer and took that little detent I made and brought it out just a little bit. My filler was gonna be about an 1/8 inch thick, and I'm trying to keep it significantly thinner than that where I can. So I kind of shallowed that up a little bit, took care of that, and I went ahead and hit this panel with some filler. As you can see, I've already started on my guide coat. So I'm gonna go through and hit the rest of this with guide coat, see where we're high, see where we're low, go from there. Now I have noticed all my little holes for my trim. Seems like a lot of them are wanting to sit proud of the surface. So anything that's a little bit high, I'm just setting it back a little ways. Not going crazy with it, and I'm not even gonna worry about filling it as long as it's covered up with the width of the trim. So that's kind of my game plan here. I'm probably gonna take each panel of this car up to 320, and then when I get that knocked out, we'll go through this whole car and sand it with 400, do a wet sand. So that's kind of my game plan. We'll see how far we get. This is kind of tedious, so I'm just gonna put some headphones in, see if we can get knocked out. All right, so I've got some putty setting up over here on this quarter. Kind of rough shaped into size. This little down here was low, was a little bit ripply, so I'll hit that again. In the meantime, while I'm waiting on this to set up, I'm going to start working this door a little bit better, but I think it's going to be easier for me to pop these things off. So I'm going to take the door off. I'll set up on my little body stand here, and then I don't know, depending on how easy it is to get them on and off, I may finish up, throw it back on the car. If not, I'll just kind of stick it in the corner and take them off one at a time. But I think it's gonna be. I think I'll be able to get a little better job done with it off the car. So that's what I'm gonna do quick. Right, so that wasn't too bad. This will be way easier. I picked this stand up today at Harbor Freight. They're like 18 or 20 bucks. Way easier than messing around with sawhorses or anything. So we'll not the sturdiest thing in the world, but it'll be fine. So I'm gonna start picking away at this. I think I've got it pretty well in shape. I know this bottom lip here needs a little bit of attention, but it's going to be way easier for me to do it up here on this flat surface versus trying to hold the door open and fighting the rocker on the car. So this will be time well spent having this off the car. so this is looking pretty good. Got this wet sand down to 200. Had a little bit of rippling over here, so I just quick skim coat it. Same with over here, just one little spot, but looking pretty good here. I'm gonna let that set for a while, and then I'll hit this again. And I went ahead and started jumping back on this quarter over here. Get this kind of shaped down into size. Pretty close here. I'm gonna start working back on this guy here, and then I don't know, I'm probably not gonna wet sand the quarter tonight. This stuff like really stains the floor. So I think what I'll do when I go to wet sand this quarter here, I'll probably pick the car up, slide this little pool underneath it, just kind of catch a little bit of that dripping stuff. So I may get this dry sanded down to where I want it to tonight, then may go ahead and jump on this door. I'm not sure. We'll just kind of see how things go. So, got a little spot. I don't know if it's going to show up on camera or not. Right here, need to fill that, and then I'm obviously high right here. So I'm going to build this up just a little bit, and I'll take it back down until the point where I'm not really getting into this metal. I can kind of feel it just a little bit right there. Everything else is looking good so far. Got another quick skim coat on this quarter. This is looking good, so I'm going to hit the bottom of that door, and then probably while that's setting up, I may go ahead and pop this driver door off so I can get a jump on that. Alright, so we're diving off in this morning. Just sanded last night till we got to a good stopping point. Went in and hit this door here with a little bit of filler primer. This guy had a handful of little scratches on it that you could just barely catch with your fingernail, and I don't really want those showing up through the paint. So we'll wet sand this with some 400 and see if they made themselves disappear. And then that is almost done with this door. A little touch up on the top side, and that'll wrap that up. Pretty well done with the quarter. Got a little touch up except on this bottom right corner here. Other than that, I believe, go over this with 400 and it'll be wrapped up there. Then I'll move on to this door. I'd really like to go ahead and jump on the other side today, see if we can get that wrapped up, and then at some point I will bring in both the fenders and the hood, set them up on a little stand here and get those kind of worked. They've got a couple little dents in them that I know need attended to, and that the hood has got a pretty sizable one up top. So that's kind of the game plan today. Just a lot more sanding, so I'm gonna stick some headphones in and just get after it. Okay, so we're gonna jump back on this driver door here. Now obviously we got a jump start on this in the last video prior to my sanding blocks arriving. But in these locations here, we kind of had to rough this thing up with some coarser paper to get the putty to it here. As did we on the rear door and the quarter. Seemed like both those panels had notably more gouges in certain areas, so we just kind of hit the whole panel with a pretty coarse grit and then worked up through the steps to get it smoothed out. I'm going to try to avoid that anywhere possible because it takes so much time to get all the sanding scratches out and whatnot. So obviously in these locations here, we're going to have to go through the steps to get it back smooth. But like up here, this panel's in really good shape, minus one little gouge here. So where I can, I'm going to start with like say 320 or something, just kind of get this thing scuffed up to where the primer will here, and this thing's going to get sanded again after we prime it, so it'll show any more little perfections that we may have missed. But that's where we're going to start. So this panel shouldn't take very long, so we'll just get a jump on it and then see kind of where we end up. So I've got nothing short of a monstrous mess going here, but we are making progress slowly but surely. It's been several late nights getting us to where we're at. Got the driver door knocked out, minus a little bit of glazing stuff I've got to knock down, but this is taken up to 400. Same thing with the rear door. I think I'm pretty well good there. His quarter's almost done. I'm going to relocate this kiddie pool, like I said earlier, to make a little bit less of a mess over here, but I think this is pretty well shaped into size. So get this driver door finished, then I will wet sand this up to 400. Not too far from that yet. And then kind of in the meantime, I started working on a couple of these little intricate spots around the drip rail and door jambs and whatnot. I'm just taking this stuff down to like 220 up to 320, and I'm going to call it good at that. I don't think I'm going to have to worry about sanding scratches too bad. I'm really just halfway trying to scuff this, and it's going to get primed and halfway knocked down again. I'm going to do a couple test sprays in some spots just to verify that it's not going to be totally ugly, but this isn't a show car, and I'm not really going to spend the time to make it one. So if we can get good enough, kind of acceptable, then I'm going to call it good at that. Gonna start working this rocker down here. I've already started a little bit. Need to kind of body work this little section here. I've got a small ripple. Not that big of a deal. I'll take care of that. And then I've obviously started working on this patch here that we patched in way back in one of the first or second videos. But that's kind of where we're at for the driver's side. I'm totally going to ignore the back of the car for now. This is going to be some work getting this taken care of because paint's wanting to flake up here. So I'm going to take this down to bare metal just to be sure I don't have any adhesion issues. But I'm going to finish the driver's side and then jump over to the passenger. I don't think this side is going to be quite as bad. It seemed like it's in a little bit better shape, minus some of this nonsense. So I'll have to figure that out. But that's kind of my game plan. I'd really like to get this car pushed back out to give it a little bit of a bath and brought back in. So I'll figure out what that's going to entail. It's obviously it's kind of hard to get it out, man. So it'd be a lot easier to be able to wet sand this thing, wash it quick, portion at a time, because this thing just turns into a huge dusty mess. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. We'll see kind of where we end up. But I don't know. I'd like to get this thing done in the next couple days because I am tired of sanding and I cannot find anybody to come do this for free. So we'll just keep plugging away at it and see kind of where we get. Got my rear passenger door over here, kind of getting started on it. Driver's side's pretty well knocked out. I've already taken this panel up to 220, but what I'm doing now is there's a handful of spots that are just barely catch your nail on them and a ton of little just tiny nicks and whatnot. I don't want to have to 100% rely on my my filler primer to get these brought up to height. So I'm just going through, I'm going to spot in all little different locations on this panel, and then I'll continue to sand on this, go 320 and 400 on up, and then call it good with that. So that's what I'm going to do quick. Shouldn't take but a minute to get this kind of spotted in. Let this set up for a second, and then I'll move on to sanding it. So I got this rear door kind of spotted in a little bit. I'm gonna let this set up. We'll knock it down with some 320, go to 400. That guy will be pretty well wrapped up. Driver's doors are taken care of. We'll rip this other front door off here in a second, throw it up on the stands, kind of start picking away at it. This driver quarter I've already got sanded down to 400, but I think I'm gonna go through and hit it with a little bit of glazing putty here and there. There are a couple spots I can kind of barely catch in my fingernail that I want to kind of be sure that are addressed so I don't have to do any fill work after the fact if I can avoid it. So that's kind of what I'm doing now. And I guess at some point I need to start kind of determining what I'm gonna do for color on this thing. So this is a factory red car. I believe Matador red was paint code if I'm not mistaken, which is, I think, is just that kind of that classic 57 Chevy red that everybody knows. I don't know if it was necessarily this bright or deep of a red, but something similar to it. I did, however, like the orange color this car had after I got to wet sanding and polishing on it. So it just kind of drug everything out orange that I had to see what was close. I'm a sucker for orange classic cars, so that might be the direction I'm kind of leaning. This is close to what I'm thinking, but still a little more orange than I want. So something with a little more red color to it would be preferable. It's all going to be kind of dependent on what's out there budget friendly. I do think, however, that I'm going to do this car single stage. See what this thing came with. It may have been even a lacquer job. I'm not 100% sure, but that's kind of the direction I'm going to go. And I am going to try to paint it in here, which I've done in the past. It's less than ideal, but I can kind of make it work. What I'm hoping for is in the next week or two, if weather's permitting, I'll get this thing primed and then maybe some color on it. We'll just kind of see. It is winter time right now, so it's just going to be dependent on weather, because I will have to open up a couple doors to get some airflow in here. And if it's 30 degrees outside, that's not going to quite work out. So I don't know. That's kind of the direction I think I'm going to go. But what I do think I'm going to do though is have this car rolled out. Maybe go ahead and do the doors and hood and fenders and whatnot first. See how those come out, and then bring the car back in and do the quarters, trunk, and the roof skin, door jams and whatnot, and afterwards. So we'll see. I don't know. That's just kind of the direction I think I'm going to go. Trying to halfway stay ahead of the game as far as ordering stuff, that we're not sitting around waiting on things. But for now, I've got I don't know, another 18,000 hours of sanding to work on, so I think I'm gonna start back on that. You guessed it, still sanding. Take it for a quick once over. Hadn't recorded in a day or two because it's just been more of the same, but show you kind of where we're at. So got this roof skin pretty well knocked out in this area. Haven't touched this over here. What I'm gonna do is try to get this whole roof knocked out today. I'll end up taking this thing up to 200, getting it all nice and smoothed out, and then we'll sand the whole thing 320. Got this deck lid halfway started. Looking pretty good. A lot of rippling going on down here at the bottom. Kind of halfway worked out with some hammers, got it close. Most of this will get knocked back off, but that's kind of where we're at on that. There was some damage that was done here in the past. Not really any filler per se, but obviously things been taken down to bare metal, because you can see the old original kind of brown primer behind here, and this does not have anything underneath it. So I'm not sure what that entailed. And then back here on this fin, kind of some weird damage that happened here. It's like this inside of this fin kind of got pushed in. So I've got a little bit of a filler in this kind of vicinity, and if you can see it, there's a little bit of a ripple right here that is not correct with this other side. I can get to the back of this, and it's not really dented in per se, but this has kind of been built up for whatever reason. So I'll get this all shaved off, kind of see what's going on there, and then I'll shape it back the way it needs to be. I'm gonna hit this guy next. So I've got this little smiley face here that we'll need to address. Probably gonna set the camera up, knock it out quick. I'll have to kind of work this down, and then I'll probably go around, 8 or 10 inch circle around that to kind of feather that in. But that's kind of where we're at. I have not started on the fenders or the hood yet, and I still have to do this passenger side quarter. So gonna be some time involved there, but I don't know, we're getting there. So I'm gonna set the camera up, knock this roof skin out, and kind of see where we're at here in a couple hours. Okay, so I've got this guy pretty well knocked out like I want to. As you can see, this little spot here kind of presented itself once we started blocking it down. That's okay. I'm sure this roof skin's got a handful more spots like that that'll kind of present themselves when we get the sanding, but we'll check those off the list as we get to them. I've also been working on this deck lid. I ended up scraping most of this filler off because there was like a crease coming through here, making my filler kind of thick. So what I ended up doing was going through here, fender washer and an eye bolt through this license plate hole, took my slide hammer, kind of pulled this guy out to make this a lot flatter. This is my first coat post slide hammer work. So I'll knock that guy down here in a second and see what that turned out like. I think it's gonna be way better now. Then I can get this panel sanded down the rest of the way and get it knocked off the list. So if anybody's still here watching me sand, I don't know why, I'm sick of sanding, so I'm gonna wrap this episode up at that. Hopefully next time we come back, this thing will be totally done, that we can start kind of working on some bolt-on stuff. Maybe we can get that motor tore down, start getting it resealed back up. I'm gonna try to get this thing sanded down over the weekend. We'll see what comes up, but thanks for watching. Stay tuned for future updates. Got a lot more coming.